They built 31 cabins on my private peninsula. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. 31 brand new, shiny vacation cabins slapped right on a land where I'd scattered wildflowers for my late wife. And you want to know my master plan for revenge? Simple. Let them finish the job. I sat there, hands in my lap, and let Mara Trent, the HOA president, parade around like she owned the place, waving her clipboard like a battle flag, barking orders while bulldozers ate through the rose garden Eleanor and I planted together, all while she called me a squatter to my face. I swear, there's nothing quite like the burn you feel when a bunch of folks you've never met march right onto your land, wave fake official surveys around, and treat you like some washed-up relic, just an old man clinging to dirt nobody else cares about. But, this wasn't just land for me. This was a living memorial, a promise built from rough timber, sweat, and the smell of pine and wild roses. Losing it felt like watching them spit on everything Eleanor and I ever built. Have you ever had a crowd mock you in public, all smiles and fake paperwork, just to humiliate you? That's a special kind of heat, burns right through your skin, sticks in your bones long after the crowd is gone. But here's what Mara and her little army didn't know. The entire multi-million-dollar project she was so proud of was built on a lie, something buried out here for 40 years, just waiting for the right moment to dig itself up and bite someone in the rear. So if you're sitting there thinking, no HOA should ever be able to bulldoze someone's legacy, go ahead and get comfortable, because justice in this world doesn't always wear a suit and tie. Let me back up a sec, paint you a picture of how all this started. It was just a regular morning for me. Air thick with the scent of sawdust and pine. My cabin always smells like that, especially after I've been sanding cedar window frames for an hour or two. Built every inch of this place myself for Eleanor. When cancer hit her hard, it was the sound of the lake and the hush under the old pines that kept her steady. We used to sit out on the porch, listening to the waves lap against the dock, sometimes not saying a word, just holding hands and letting the world spin quietly by. She called this our sanctuary. After she passed, I finished the place alone, kept going not for some fancy retirement, but for the peace of honest work, for the comfort of memory. That peace snapped one morning when the crunch of car tires on gravel rolled up my drive. Didn't happen much, not out here. Folks in Lakeview Meadows, the new development next door, always respected the old stone wall and my granddad's private property sign, weathered and stubborn as the family that put it there. Not this time. I wiped the dust from my hands and stepped outside to see a car, so shiny it looked like a joke on a dirt road. There she was, Mara Trent, decked out in a crisp pantsuit, clipboard in hand, two young guys in tow, both looking like they practiced saying "yes, ma'am" in the mirror. I recognized Mara from those Go Doffel newsletters, smile stretched tight as fishing line. "Mr. Halpern," she called, all fake sweetness. "I'm Mara Trent with the Lake View Homeowners Association. These gentlemen are from our planning committee." I didn't bother opening the gate, just leaned on the bars and said, "I know who you are. The HOA has no business this far down the point." Her smile flickered. "Actually, that's why we're here. The board voted to move forward with our Lakefront Community Initiative. We'll be repurposing this unused peninsula for 31 new cabins." I stared at her, then at the little pink survey flags snaking through the trees. How'd I miss those? "Repurposing," I said flat. "This isn't unused land. This is my land. Always has been." She actually laughed, cold and hollow. "Our records disagree, Mr. Halpern. The plat map says this parcel is community property." Her lackeys nodded along. I tried reason. "My granddad bought this land. My dad built the dock. I built this cabin for my dying wife. I have the deed, original county maps, right inside. But logic doesn't matter to people like Mara." She just shook her head and said, "Official filings are what matter. The boards approve the budget. Contractors start tomorrow." She didn't even look at me. Just my cabin, calculating what it'd cost to bulldoze Eleanor's rose beds. "You're trespassing," I said low and steady. "Nobody's allowed past this gate." Her smile turned to ice. "You need to understand your position. The community has decided. Cooperate, or be treated as a squatter. We'll be back at 8. She spun around, climbed in her car, and left a dust cloud behind like one last insult. I stood at the gate a long time, staring at those little pink flags, each one a nail in Eleanor's memory. That night, I pulled out the old military lockbox, original deed, plat map with my granddad's signature, proof so solid it ought to be untouchable. Spent the evening lining up every argument in my head. You can't just steal a man's life, can you? I woke up before dawn, papers spread out across the kitchen table, rehearsing what I'd say, ready for a fight. But there was no knock. Instead, the floor started shaking. 2 bulldozers already inside the gate, chewing up the dirt just feet from Eleanor's roses. First instinct was to run out, wave the deed, shout them down. But I'm not a fool. An old man against a bulldozer, you know how that ends. This was a job for paperwork, not fists. I called the county assessor. The clerk on the line barely cared. Halpern, right? Parcel 7B was consolidated with Lake View Meadows last year. My blood ran cold. Consolidated? I have the deed right here. She sighed. As of last May, that land belongs to the HOA. It was like calling a hospital and being told you'd already died and no one bothered to tell you. Nothing I said mattered. I hung up, bulldozers still grinding, the sound suddenly final. But discipline takes over in moments like that. The county made a mistake, I thought. I just have to show the proof. I grabbed the deed, thick, yellowed paper, clear as day, and made an appointment with Bill Peterson, local real estate attorney. His office smelled like dust and old books. He studied the deed, listened to my story, then looked at me with tired but honest eyes. Tom, your deed is real. The map's real. But what they did was probably legal on paper. The HOA's lawyer exploited a loophole called clerical consolidation, filed a new, probably fake, survey, absorbed your land into their plat, county rubber stamped it. It's paper theft, and they count on you not having the money to fight. By the time you get to court, the cabins will be built and sold. That's when the world sort of shrank, like all the air went out of it. When I got home, a new chain link fence cut me off from most of the peninsula. Even my boat ramp was on the wrong side. Community property. No trespassing, the sign said. Next day, bright orange fine taped to my door. $100 for encroachment in my own woodshed. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. Then one morning, I watched the bulldozer grind up Eleanor's roses, pushing the roots aside like garbage. That was the last living thing she'd planted. Something in me broke that night. Or maybe it was forged into something new. I sat on the dock with the lockbox in my lap, dusk settling over the water. That deed wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a promise. They thought they'd beaten me, made me just another sad story. But what they'd really done was drive every nail into their own coffin. I got methodical. I'm an engineer at heart. Give me a problem, I'll find the weak spot. The HOA became my problem. Fall rolled in. The buzz of construction replaced the sound of birds. I watched as they poured 31 identical slabs, raised 31 identical cabins. Neighbors looked away, scared they'd end up like me. That was fine. Let them think I'd rolled over. Mornings, I flew my drone over the site, filming everything. Afternoons, I hit the county records office, pulling every permit, every plat. That's when I found a crack. Every permit listed a parcel ID for Lake View Meadows, not my peninsula, not Lot 7B. Details, always in the details. I called up Ralph Clevenger, retired county surveyor, old friend. We drank coffee while I slid the old plat and the HOA's survey across the table. He stared, then grinned. Somebody's compass is busted, Tom. Their survey moves the boundary 200 feet onto your land. Sloppy. Then in the brush, I found it, the old county benchmark, a brass disc set in concrete, official, legal, permanent. Ralph checked, and sure enough, it was still in the system. If that marker was active, the whole project was on my land. Thought that'd be the end of it. Dressed up, brought the maps, photos, and a printout from the registry to the next HOA meeting. Mara up front, board members lined up like bodyguards. I waded through endless talk about lawns and parking, then laid out the evidence, explained the benchmark. The room went dead quiet. I saw doubt flicker in one board member's eyes. But Mara? She just held up the photo with 2 fingers and sneered. A survey marker? You expect us to stop a multi-million-dollar project for a piece of metal? The room broke out in laughter. They call me a conspiracy nut, a crank with crayons. You know, humiliation stings, but it teaches you. That's when I realized the truth wasn't enough. They needed a different kind of lesson. Next morning, my mailbox was smashed, workshop window broken, message received. Ralph said call the cops. I said, let them finish. I recorded everything, kept my evidence safe. While they strutted around, I filed and planned. Ralph dug deeper. Turned out the HOA surveyor had skipped field work, just copied old GPS data and mapped the wrong land. Brought in Henry Mills, retired assessor, to audit everything. Got certified copies stamped, notarized, hired Ralph to write a modern legal description, GPS coordinates anchored to that benchmark. Re-recorded my deed, $200, but now airtight, digital, and official. The ace up my sleeve? Quiet title action. Lawsuit that names the HOA as trespassers, their cabins as encroachment. Bill kept it sealed, just waiting for the perfect moment. The cabins went up, shiny as could be. HOA threw a grand ribbon cutting. Local press, city council, the whole circus. Mara in her power suit, ready to gloat. While she strutted to the mic, I walked right through the crowd, folder in hand. Mara tried to brush me off, but I opened that folder, held up the certified deed, new legal survey. Didn't need a mic. Lot 7B, registered 1983 to Thomas Halpern. Still active. New GPS survey, still mine. Gasp rippled through the crowd. Mara tried to call for security, but nobody moved. I'd brought friends, a reporter, a county official. The official stepped up, clear as day. The benchmark on this property is legal and active. Any construction east of that marker is encroachment. The word hit like a thunderclap. Mara's face went from white to red. She demanded the deputy do something, but Carl Bishop, who'd fished off my dock as a boy, just tipped his hat and said, "Ma'am, you're the trespasser. I suggest you vacate." That was it. The whole HOA kingdom crumbled on the spot. One board member threatened to sue me. I just grinned. You can't sue for land you don't own. The fallout was quiet, almost peaceful. The news video went viral. Veterans' land stolen by HOA. County survey crew confirmed it. All 31 cabins, every road, every inch mine. Court granted my quiet title action. Suddenly, I owned it all. The HOA's insurance? Gone. Their empire? Finished. And get this, a surprise hero, D, the quiet HOA secretary turned whistleblower. She gave the investigators proof Mara forged signatures, fake permits, skimmed funds. 2 weeks after my big day, Mara was let out in handcuffs. No power suit, no fake smile. Fraud, forgery, embezzlement. Her little empire of ashes. You know, I never wanted 31 cabins. Sold them off, set up a scholarship in Eleanor's name for veterans' families. Teach them trades, carpentry, surveying, building things that last. The perfect tribute, turning a nightmare into hope. Neighbors trickled by, apologizing, sheepish. I let it go. Fear does strange things to people. Little by little, the wall between me and the community disappeared. This morning, I watched the sunrise over the lake. 2 neighbor kids fishing off my dock where the bulldozers used to rumble. I'd save the cabin. I'd honor my wife. I'd restore a sense of justice, not just for me, but for everyone watching. Sometimes justice is slow. Sometimes you have to let folks build their own lesson, nail by nail. They thought they were building cabins on stolen land. What they really built was a story no one here will ever forget. So tell me, what would you have done in my shoes? Where do you draw the line between justice and revenge? Drop your thoughts down below, because I think this world could use a little more backbone. And if you've ever had a fight for what's right, you know exactly what I'm talking about. 48.